My name is Marcus Chin and I'm 24 years old. What I'm about to tell you isn't a story about forgiveness or second chances. This is about the moment my parents realized they'd thrown away something priceless because they couldn't see past a price tag. This is about the night my father stood in a crowd of 800 people and watched me become everything he said I'd never be. Before I tell you about that launch event, when Dad's voice cracked trying to call my name and I walked past him like he was invisible, I need to take you back to the beginning. Back to the house on Willow Creek Drive, where my parents calculated my worth down to the dollar and decided I wasn't a worthwhile investment. I grew up in a middle-class suburb of Seattle, the younger of 2 children. My older brother, David, was 17 when this story begins. A straight-A student, varsity baseball captain, already accepted to Stanford on a partial academic scholarship. He was everything our parents wanted. Naturally gifted, self-motivated, impressive on paper. I was the opposite. I struggled in school, especially with reading and math. What we didn't know until much later was that I had undiagnosed dyslexia and ADHD. All my parents saw was a kid who needed constant help, constant support, constant resources just to maintain C's and B's. "Why can't you be more like your brother?" my mother, Patricia, asked at least once a week. David never needed a tutor. David never needed extra help. "Why do you have to make everything so difficult?" My father, Richard, was more direct. "We're paying $200 a month for tutoring and your grades are still average. That's $2,400 a year on mediocrity. Do you know what that money could be doing if we invested it?" The only place I excelled was music. I'd started piano lessons at age 6, and while I struggled to read books, I could read music like breathing. My piano teacher, Professor Elena Vasquez, said I had a gift. That my fingers understood emotion in ways that couldn't be taught. "Marcus feels music," she told my parents during one of their rare appearances at a recital when I was 11. "He has genuine talent. With the right training he could—" "How much does the right training cost?" my father interrupted. Professor Vasquez looked surprised. "Well, if he wants to pursue this seriously, he'd need to increase to 2 sessions per week, enter competitions, eventually consider a pre-college conservatory program. So thousands of dollars for a hobby." My mother's voice was flat. "He can barely pass regular school. We're not funding a pipe dream." But they did keep paying for weekly lessons, mainly because it was the one thing that kept me quiet and out of trouble. Piano became my refuge. The 1 hour each week where I wasn't stupid, wasn't struggling, wasn't a disappointment. Professor Vasquez was in her 50s, a former concert pianist from Argentina who'd moved to the States to teach. She had dark eyes that missed nothing, silver-streaked hair she wore in an elegant bun, and hands that could coax magic from any keyboard. She lived alone in a beautiful old house near the university, dedicated entirely to her students. "You have something special, Marcus," she told me every week. "Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." By the time I was 14, my parents' resentment had reached a breaking point. David was finishing his first year at Stanford, and the bills were piling up despite his scholarship. I was still struggling through 8th grade, still needing weekly tutoring for $50 an hour, still costing them money for minimal return on investment. That's literally how my father put it: minimal return on investment. It happened on a Tuesday in April. I came home from school with my report card. 3 B's, 2 C's and 1 D in algebra. I'd actually improved from the previous semester. The tutoring was helping, but all my parents saw was the D. My father was waiting in the living room when I walked in, my mother beside him on the couch. David was there too, home for spring break, looking uncomfortable. "Sit down, Marcus," my father said. I sat in the armchair across from them, my stomach already sinking. "We've been doing some calculations," my father began, pulling out a spreadsheet. Because of course he had a spreadsheet. "Since you started struggling in elementary school, we've spent approximately $47,000 on your education. Tutors, learning specialists, testing, extra programs, supplies. $47,000. Do you know what David cost us in the same time frame? Maybe $5,000, and most of that was enrichment programs he chose, not remedial help he needed." "Richard," my mother said quietly, but she didn't stop him. "You're bringing home C's and D's despite all that investment," he continued. "Meanwhile, David's at Stanford maintaining a 3.9 GPA. Your piano lessons alone have cost us $15,600 over 8 years. For what? So you can play at 1 recital a year." "I love piano," I said quietly, Professor Vasquez says. Professor Vasquez makes money off you staying interested. My mother cut me off. Of course she says you're talented. This is her income stream. That's not fair, I protested. She really believes. Enough. My father held up his hand. We've made a decision. We're cutting off your tutoring and your piano lessons. David needs money for graduate school applications and we need to start saving for retirement. We can't keep throwing money at a child who isn't showing results. The room went silent. I looked at David, who was staring at his hands, refusing to meet my eyes. You're taking away my piano lessons? My voice came out small, broken. You're 14, my mother said. Old enough to understand priorities. We have limited resources and they need to go where they'll make a difference. David has a future in corporate law or business. You'll be fine. You'll graduate high school, get a normal job, live a normal life. Not everyone is meant for greatness, Marcus. Something inside me cracked. Professor Vasquez offered me a scholarship. A full scholarship to her summer intensive program. She believes in me. A scholarship means she keeps you hooked, my father said dismissively. Then later there are fees, travel costs, equipment costs. We've seen this before. The answer is no. But the discussion is over. My father stood up. You'll finish out this month's piano lessons since they're already paid for, but that's it. And tutoring ends immediately. You'll have to figure out school on your own like David did. If you're genuinely enjoying this story, please consider hitting that like button. Your support helps me continue creating content like this. I went to my room and cried for hours. Piano was the only thing I had. The only place I felt talented, capable, worthy. And they were taking it away because it didn't produce the returns they wanted. That night I heard them talking in the kitchen. I'd come downstairs for water and froze when I heard my name. Maybe we're being too harsh, my mother was saying. He's still just a kid. A kid who's costing us a fortune for nothing, my father replied. Patricia, be honest. Do you really think Marcus is going to do anything extraordinary? He's average. Below average considering how much help he needs. We're not being cruel, we're being realistic. David is our investment that's paying off. Marcus is a sunk cost. A sunk cost. That's what I was to my father. Not his son. Not a person with value. A failed investment. I went back upstairs, packed a backpack with clothes and essentials and wrote a note. I understand I'm too expensive. I'll figure it out on my own. Don't look for me. I left the house at 2 a.m. and walked 4 miles to Professor Vasquez's house. I slept on her porch until she found me at 6 a.m. when she came out to get her newspaper. Marcus. She was in her bathrobe, hair down, looking shocked. What on earth? I told her everything. The conversation, the spreadsheet, the $47,000 being called a sunk cost. I couldn't stop crying. Professor Vasquez led me inside, made me hot chocolate and let me talk until I had nothing left to say. Then she made a phone call. Yes, Patricia, this is Elena Vasquez. Marcus is at my house. He's safe. We need to talk. My parents arrived an hour later. They didn't look worried, they looked annoyed. Like I'd created an inconvenience. Marcus, you can't just run away because you don't like our decisions, my mother started immediately. Get your things. We're going home. Actually, Professor Vasquez said calmly, I'd like to speak with you both first. Marcus, would you wait in my studio? I went into the music studio. A beautiful room with a grand piano, walls lined with instruments and awards, and closed the door. But I could hear everything. Do you have any idea what you've done to that child? Professor Vasquez's voice was sharp, angry in a way I'd never heard from her. Telling him he's not worth investing in? That he's too expensive to love. You don't understand, my father said. We have limited resources and 2 children. We have to make choices. You have unlimited cruelty apparently. Marcus is a brilliant musician. I've taught for 30 years and I've never had a student with his natural gift for emotional interpretation. He could be extraordinary. With all due respect, Professor, my mother said coldly, you're biased. You want to keep teaching him. I offered him a full scholarship to my summer program. No cost to you. I've offered to teach him for free if money is the issue. I've done everything but beg you to let this child pursue his gift. And you're cutting him off anyway because he's not like his brother. There was silence. He told you about the scholarship offer? My father finally said. He's been trying to tell you for weeks, but you won't listen. You're so focused on spreadsheets and return on investment that you can't see your own son. And now he's so convinced he's worthless that he ran away at 2 a.m. rather than live in a house where he's treated like a failed business venture. We're doing what's best for our family, my father said, but his voice was less certain. No, you're doing what's easiest for you. And when Marcus does become something extraordinary, which he will with or without you, you'll regret every word you said to him. Every dollar you begrudged. Every moment you chose calculation over compassion. Is he putting you up to this? My mother asked sharply. Making himself the victim? I'm putting myself up to this. Because someone needs to advocate for this child. Now I have a proposal. Let Marcus stay with me. I'll take full financial responsibility. I'll cover his living expenses, his education, everything. You won't have to spend another penny on your sunk cost. The silence stretched so long I thought they'd left. You want to take custody? My father finally said. If necessary, yes. I'm licensed as a foster parent. I did it years ago for other students in need. I can make it legal if you agree. Marcus deserves to be somewhere he's valued. Another long silence. Fine. My mother's voice was tight, defensive. If he wants to throw away a perfectly good home for a fantasy, let him. We tried our best. We gave him opportunities. If he's too stubborn to appreciate what we've done. You've done nothing but damage. Professor Vasquez cut her off. Now get out of my house. I heard the front door slam. Footsteps approached the studio. Professor Vasquez opened the door, her face composed but her eyes bright with unshed tears. Marcus, you're going to live with me now. If that's what you want. They really just left me? I whispered. They did. And sweetheart, I'm so sorry. But their failure to see your worth says everything about them and nothing about you. You're staying here, we're going to prove them all wrong, and you're going to be magnificent. Do you trust me? I nodded, unable to speak. Good. Now we have work to do. You have talent, but talent needs discipline. Structure. Dedication. Are you ready to work harder than you've ever worked? Yes. Then let's begin. The legal process took 3 months. My parents signed custody papers without contest, officially giving me up. David called once to say he was sorry that he'd tried to talk them out of it, but he had finals and couldn't get involved. I told him I understood, but we both knew it was a lie. He chose not to get involved. My parents sent one email after everything was finalized. When this music dream falls apart and you need real help, don't expect us to bail you out. You made your choice. I never responded. Professor Vasquez, I started calling her Elena after the adoption was finalized. Transformed my life. She set up a structured routine. School from 8 to 3, homework and tutoring from 4 to 6. She hired a specialized tutor who actually understood dyslexia. Piano practice from 7 to 9, dinner and family time from 9 to 10. Family time? I asked the first week. Yes. We're family now. We eat dinner together, we talk about our days, we exist as people, not just teacher and student. You need to know you matter beyond your talent. She got me tested for learning disabilities and finally got the dyslexia and ADHD diagnoses. With proper support and medication, my grades climbed to B's and A's. Turned out I wasn't stupid, I just had a brain that worked differently. But music was where I soared. Under Elena's intensive training, I progressed faster than I'd ever imagined possible. She entered me in competitions and I started winning. Regional competitions, then state, then national. By 16, I'd won the Young Artists International Piano Competition, performing at Carnegie Hall. My biological parents weren't there. David sent a congratulations text. Elena was there, crying in the front row, standing to applaud until her hands were red. You're extraordinary, she whispered afterward, hugging me tight. Never forget that. During my high school years, Elena and I talked often about the problem I'd seen. Talented kids from low-income families who couldn't afford instruments, lessons, or program fees. Kids like me, but without someone like Elena to rescue them. Why can't we create something? I asked during dinner one night when I was 17. A program that gives free instruments and lessons to kids who can't afford them? Elena's eyes lit up. That's a beautiful idea. But it takes funding, organization, infrastructure. So we start small. We fundraise. We get donations. We build it. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Your support means everything. That conversation planted a seed. We started researching nonprofit structures, funding models, similar programs. Elena introduced me to people in the music education world. I spent my senior year of high school developing a business plan for what I called Harmony Bridge, a nonprofit that would provide free music education to underprivileged youth. I was accepted to Juilliard with a full scholarship. During my 4 years there studying piano performance and arts administration, Harmony Bridge grew from an idea to a reality. Elena and I officially incorporated it as a 501c3 my sophomore year. We started with a single program in Seattle serving 30 kids. By the time I graduated, we had programs in 5 cities serving over 500 students. But I wanted more. I wanted to scale Harmony Bridge into something transformative, national, undeniable. After Juilliard, I spent 2 years working as a performer and private instructor, saving every penny while growing Harmony Bridge on nights and weekends. Elena had retired from university teaching to run Harmony Bridge full-time as executive director. I was founder and creative director, handling program design and fundraising. We were operating on a budget of $400,000 annually, funded entirely through small donations and grants. It was enough to serve 800 students across 7 cities. But I had a vision for serving 10,000 students. For that, we needed serious money. When I was 23, I attended a philanthropy conference in New York. During a panel on education innovation, I met Victoria Brennan, a tech billionaire who'd made her fortune in educational software and now ran a foundation focused on youth development. During the networking reception, I approached her. Ms. Brennan, I'm Marcus Chin, founder of Harmony Bridge. We provide free music education to underprivileged youth. I'd love 2 minutes to tell you why this matters. She looked at me, young, earnest, probably the 100th person who'd pitched her that day, and said, "You have 1 minute. Impress me." I was kicked out by my parents at 14 because they decided I wasn't worth the investment. My piano teacher adopted me and showed me that talent isn't about money, it's about access and belief. Harmony Bridge has transformed 800 kids' lives in 2 years on a shoestring budget. With real funding, we could reach 10,000 kids annually. Kids who will become musicians, teachers, creators. Kids who'll transform their communities the way I'm transforming mine. That's not just music education. That's generational change. Victoria studied me for a long moment. Where did you go to college? Juilliard. Full scholarship. Impressive. Send me your deck. If the numbers work, we'll talk. I sent the pitch deck the next morning. 2 weeks later, I received an email. Let's meet. Bring your executive director. Elena and I flew to San Francisco. Victoria's foundation offices were stunning, glass and steel with views of the bay. We presented our vision, a $25 million capital campaign to expand Harmony Bridge to 30 cities over 5 years, serving 10,000 students annually with free instruments, lessons and performance opportunities. Victoria asked tough questions. She challenged our cost models, our scalability plans, our impact measurements. Elena and I had answers for everything. We'd spent years preparing for this moment. At the end of the 3-hour meeting, Victoria leaned back in her chair. I started coding at 12 because a teacher gave me access to a computer I couldn't afford. That access changed my life. I see the same thing in your model. You're not just teaching music, you're opening doors. I'm in for $15 million seed funding. But I want 2 things in return. My heart stopped. $15 million? 1. You stay as founder and face of the organization. This story starts with you and people need to see that. 2. You launch publicly with an event that showcases your students and tells your story. Make people care. Make them donate. Turn this into a movement. We can do that, Elena said, squeezing my hand under the table. Then let's change some lives. The contract was signed within a month. With $15 million in funding, we launched an aggressive expansion plan. We hired staff, secured partnerships with schools and community centers, and recruited master teachers. We designed a launch event for 10 months later, a gala concert at the Seattle Symphony Hall featuring Harmony Bridge students alongside professional musicians. The event would mark our official national launch. Media would be there. Donors. Politicians. Anyone who mattered in arts and education. And somehow my biological parents found out about it. The invitation list for the Harmony Bridge launch gala was carefully curated. 800 guests, including major donors, education leaders, politicians, arts organizations and press. Tickets started at $500 with VIP tables at $10,000. Every penny went to program funding. I hadn't thought about my biological parents in months. I'd been too busy with expansion plans, hiring, and event preparation. They were part of a past I'd moved beyond. 3 weeks before the launch, I received an email from an address I didn't recognize. richard.chin2847@gmail.com. Marcus, this is your father. We saw the news about your nonprofit launch. We're very proud of what you've accomplished. We'd like to attend the event and support you. Can you add us to the guest list? Dad. I stared at that email for a full hour. Proud? Support? Where was that pride when they called me a sunk cost? Where was that support when they kicked me out? I showed Elena. What do you think I should do? She was quiet for a moment. What do you want to do? Part of me wants to tell them to go to hell. Part of me wants them there so they can see exactly what they threw away. Then let them come. But Marcus, they'll be just another face in the crowd. This is your night. Your achievement. Don't let their presence steal your joy. I replied to the email. 2 tickets will be at will call under your names. Tickets are $500 each. See you there. My father responded immediately. We thought family might be comped. I didn't reply to that one. The week before the launch, press coverage intensified. Local news ran features on Harmony Bridge. NPR did an interview with me about access in arts education. The Seattle Times published a profile. From abandoned teen to philanthropist, Marcus Chen's mission to make music accessible. The article included my story. The parents who kicked me out, the piano teacher who saved me, the nonprofit built on the belief that every child deserves access to beauty. It went viral. Suddenly, everyone wanted to talk about Harmony Bridge. Donations flooded in. The gala sold out completely with a waiting list of 200 more people wanting tickets. My biological parents were already on the list, so they had their seats. Row M, Section 2. Not VIP. Not special. Just regular attendees like everyone else. The night of the launch arrived. Seattle Symphony Hall glowed with lights. Red carpet. Photographers. Local celebrities. It was surreal. This kid who'd been called worthless was now the center of attention for creating something that mattered. I wore a custom black suit. Elena wore an elegant navy gown. We stood in the VIP reception area before the show, greeting major donors and press. Victoria Brennan was there along with the mayor, several state legislators, and executives from major foundations. You did it, Elena whispered to me at one point, her eyes bright with tears. Look at this. Look at what you built. We built, I corrected. I'm nothing without you. The program was designed to be powerful. First half, Harmony Bridge students performing, kids from tough neighborhoods, foster care, homeless shelters, all playing instruments we'd provided, showcasing talent that would have gone undiscovered without access. Second half, professional musicians joining students in a collaborative concert. Then my keynote speech and the official campaign launch. As showtime approached, I did a final check backstage. 12 student performers, ages 8 to 17, all dressed in formal concert attire we'd provided. They were nervous and excited, some of them performing on stage for the first time. You're going to be amazing, I told them. Remember why we're here. To show the world that talent has nothing to do with money. You're proof of that. Go out there and play like you own that stage. They did. The first half was transcendent. An 11-year-old girl from a domestic violence shelter played Chopin with such delicate emotion that people openly wept. A 15-year-old boy who'd been living in his car 6 months ago performed an original jazz composition that brought the audience to its feet. Every single student was brilliant. During intermission, I stayed backstage preparing for my speech. Elena found me pacing. They're here, she said quietly. Your parents. I saw them in their seats. They both look, I don't know, uncomfortable. Good. The second half began. Professional musicians from the Seattle Symphony joined our students for collaborative pieces. The visual was powerful, world-class performers treating these kids as equals playing side by side. It made the statement we wanted. Talent deserves respect regardless of circumstance. Then it was time for my speech. The lights dimmed. A video began playing on the screens. Highlights from Harmony Bridge programs, testimonials from students and parents, statistics on the impact of arts education. Then my introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, Please welcome the founder of Harmony Bridge, pianist and advocate for music education equity, Marcus Chen. The applause was thunderous as I walked onto the stage. 800 people on their feet. I reached the podium, adjusted the microphone, and looked out at the audience. I found Elena first, front row center, already crying. I found Victoria Brennan smiling proudly. I found the mayor, legislators, donors who'd believed in this vision. And I found my parents. Row M, section 2. My mother looked older, worn. My father had gained weight, lost more hair. They both looked overwhelmed, like they couldn't quite believe this was real. My father's eyes met mine. He opened his mouth like he was going to say something, call my name, try to get my attention, but no sound came out. His voice cracked silently, lost in the vastness of the hall. I looked away. 10 years ago, I began, my voice steady and clear. I was told I wasn't worth investing in, that I was too expensive, that the money spent on my education, on helping me pursue what I loved, was wasted because I wasn't showing the right kind of results. The audience was silent, hanging on every word. I was 14 years old when my parents kicked me out of their house because keeping me cost too much. They had another child who was succeeding in traditional ways, and I was the one who needed tutoring, who needed accommodations, who needed support to pursue music. I was told I was average. Below average. A sunk cost. I could see people in the audience reacting, glancing around, probably trying to figure out if my parents were present. Some had read the news articles and knew this story. But one person saw something different. My piano teacher, Professor Elena Vasquez. I gestured to Elena and the spotlight found her. Didn't see a cost. She saw a child with talent and no support. She took me into her home, adopted me, and gave me the opportunity to pursue my gift. She invested everything in me, not because she expected returns, but because she believed every child deserves the chance to discover their potential. Elena was crying openly now, hand pressed to her heart. Elena taught me that access changes everything. That talent exists everywhere, but opportunity does not. That there are thousands of kids like me, brilliant, creative, passionate kids, who will never discover their gifts because they can't afford a $30 used guitar or a $50 piano lesson. Harmony Bridge exists to change that. To give those kids what Elena gave me, a chance. The applause started, building to a roar. I waited for it to quiet. Tonight we're launching a $25 million campaign to bring Harmony Bridge to 30 cities. To serve 10,000 students annually. To provide free instruments, free lessons, free access to the transformative power of music education. We're not just teaching kids to play instruments, we're teaching them they matter. That they're worth investing in. That their dreams are valid even if they don't fit traditional definitions of success. More applause. I could see people pulling out phones, probably to donate. To everyone who's supported Harmony Bridge, our donors, our volunteers, our partner organizations, thank you. You're changing lives. You're opening doors. You're telling kids they're worth it. I paused, looking directly at my biological parents for the first time since starting this speech. And to anyone watching who's ever been told they're not worth the investment, you are. Your worth isn't measured in dollars or traditional success metrics. You deserve support, opportunity, and belief. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. The audience stood, applauding. The sound was overwhelming, powerful, validating. I glanced once more at my parents. My mother was crying. My father sat frozen, his face pale, one hand pressed to his chest like he couldn't breathe. Around them, people who'd clearly figured out who they were giving them looks ranging from pity to disgust. They'd come hoping for, what? Recognition? Reconciliation? A chance to claim some credit for my success? Instead, they got to sit in a room full of people who now knew exactly what they'd done. Who knew they'd abandoned their child because he was too expensive. Who knew they'd chosen spreadsheets over their son. I walked off stage to a standing ovation. The rest of the evening was a blur of congratulations, handshakes, photos. Donors pledging money. Students thanking me. Elena hugging me so tight I could barely breathe. I'm so proud of you, she whispered. So incredibly proud. I never spoke to my parents that night. They didn't approach me, probably too ashamed, too aware of the eyes on them. I saw them leaving early during the reception, slipping outside doors like they were escaping. Good. The launch was a massive success. Between the gala and subsequent media coverage, we raised $8 million in the first week. Combined with Victoria's seed funding and other major gifts, we exceeded our $25 million goal within 6 months. Harmony Bridge expanded rapidly. Within a year we had programs in 25 cities. Within 2 years, we were serving 8,500 students annually. The impact was measurable and profound. Students' grades improved, self-confidence increased, college enrollment rates rose. We were changing lives. My biological parents tried to contact me exactly once more. 3 days after the launch, I received a long email from my father. I've never shared it publicly, but I'll share excerpts here. Marcus, I don't know how to begin this. Your mother and I were at your event. We were so proud but also devastated. Sitting in that audience, hearing you tell our story, seeing what you've become, we realized the magnitude of our mistake. We treated you like a business decision instead of our son. We prioritized money over you. We were wrong. Terribly, unforgivably wrong. I know we don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm asking anyway. Can we talk? Can we try to rebuild? We want to know you. We want to be part of your life. Please. Dad. I read that email 3 times. I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no sadness. Just nothing. I replied with one line, "You made your choice 10 years ago. I made mine tonight. Good luck with your lives." Then I blocked the email address. My brother David reached out separately. He'd seen the news coverage and wanted to apologize for not standing up for me back then. We met for coffee and he was genuinely remorseful, but the relationship was too broken. We're cordial now, we email on birthdays, but we're not brothers in any real sense. He stayed with them. He made that choice. I'm 27 now. Harmony Bridge is a nationally recognized organization operating in 35 cities, serving over 12,000 students annually with an operating budget of $18 million. We've won awards, been featured in national media, and changed thousands of lives. I still perform occasionally, benefit concerts, demonstrations with students, special events. But my real passion is this organization, this mission. Every kid we serve is a kid I used to be. Talented but unsupported, passionate but dismissed, worthy but told otherwise. Elena is 63 now, still our executive director, still my mom in every way that matters. She walks through our programs and cries happy tears seeing kids discover music the way I did. She tells them they're extraordinary. She makes them believe it. I heard through mutual acquaintances that my biological parents divorced 2 years ago. The shame of the public exposure apparently destroyed what was left of their marriage. My father is living alone in a small apartment. My mother moved to Arizona to be near her sister. David checks in on them occasionally out of obligation, but even he admits the relationship is strained. They lost everything trying to protect their investments. Meanwhile, the son they threw away built something that outlasted them. Sometimes people ask if I ever regret the speech at the launch. If I think I was too harsh making my parents' abandonment public like that. I don't regret it. That speech wasn't about revenge, it was about truth. It was about showing every person in that room and everyone who heard the story afterward, that children aren't investments to be calculated. They're people to be loved, supported, and believed in regardless of the price tag. My parents taught me what not to be. Elena taught me what to be. And Harmony Bridge is the result of both lessons. If you're reading this and you've been told you're too expensive, too difficult, not worth the investment, please hear me. Those people are wrong. Your worth isn't determined by what you cost or what you produce. Your worth is inherent. You deserve support, opportunity, and unconditional belief. Find your Elena. Find the people who see your potential and invest in you because they believe in you, not because they expect returns. Build something meaningful with that support. And then prove every doubter wrong by becoming exactly who you were meant to be. I'm living proof it's possible. And Elena. Thank you. For seeing me when I was invisible. For believing in me when I was called worthless. For teaching me that love isn't conditional and family isn't biology. Everything I am, everything I've built, exists because you said yes to a scared 14-year-old kid on your doorstep. I love you. Always. This is Marcus Chin, founder of Harmony Bridge, reminding you that every child deserves access to beauty, opportunity, and unconditional belief. We're going to keep opening doors until every kid gets that chance. Thank you for listening to my story.